On today's podcast, we're redefining this word accountability and talking about the ways in which we can stimulate, celebrate, and breathe some good oxygen into all the ways we are accountable to each other and the mission at hand. Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everybody, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast, wherever you are and however you're coming to the podcast today. So glad you're here. Welcome in. If you're new to the podcast, so glad you're here. This continues to grow, spread. We're in season 8, which means we have well over 240 episodes. So check out old episodes, so many great topics. If you scroll through it, you're going to find topics that I know are going to add value to your life, your work, and also so many great conversations I've had with thought leaders from around the world. So check it out, go back, listen to old episodes. I know you'll be glad that you did. If you're one of the OGs that have been with us from the very beginning, thank you. So glad this continues to add value to your life and your work. My commitment to anyone listening to the pod is that I hope this is a place for you to step back, for you to think, and for you to think about the temperature that you're trying to set in your life, in your work, the type of person and type of leader and type of culture that you are actively trying to create with the people around you. And I hope it gives you some oxygen to be intentional about whatever you're trying to create next. So that's my intent, and I hope that you experience that every time. It gives you something to think about and some good next steps on your journey. Before we dive into today's topic, if you'll do me the quick favor, if you will rate the podcast 5 stars, that's a great way to just help people find the podcast and it continue to grow and spread. So rating the podcast 5-star on whatever platform you're on. If you'll leave an authentic review in your own words and, what resonates with you, what topics you think are important or relevant in the world that we're in today, every time you do that and put your own words out there, the algorithms help, again, share it with more people. So thanks. And again, beyond just rating and reviewing, which please do those things, but the other way that this spreads is by you just personally sharing it with the people around you. So whether that's, sharing it on social media, an episode that resonates with you, whether that's inviting your team at work or your family or friends or colleagues to listen to an episode and then, hey, let's talk about it. How does it relate to us? Those are the ways in which these messages get amplified and shared further in the world. And that's the point of this, is to share some good stuff, some good mojo out there in the world and hopefully reach a lot of people. That's the point. So thanks for everybody that takes the time to do that, to rate, review, and share the podcast. There's one word that I hear all the time on every team and organization that I enter where I'm supporting them, speaking, I'm consulting, I'm with them. There's one word I hear all the time within every team, within every organization, across industries. And it's the word accountability. Accountability. And you hear over and over again that we need more accountability. And it's our job to, quote unquote, hold each other accountable. I hear that all the time. And accountability, believe me, we're going to talk about it on this. Accountability is a good thing. In fact, it's a positive thing. But I'm not sure that we always talk about it or understand it or acknowledge the true meaning and power of truly being accountable to the mission and to the people around us. And so we often focus on the quote unquote holding each other accountable part, but there's so much more to it. And I'll explain. So on today's podcast, we're redefining this word accountability and talking about the ways in which we can stimulate, celebrate, and breathe some good oxygen into all the ways we are accountable to each other and the mission at hand. But before we dive into today's topic, let's pause, take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I want to share with you the great excitement for this year's Thermostat Cultures live event on Friday, November 8th, 2024. As you know, this event that I've hosted over the last 7 years has been an inspiring day of development focused on authentic leadership and culture. I've been joined by powerful voices like Howard Behar, former president of Starbucks, Shane Battier, two-time NBA champion, Jenny Britton, founder of Jenny's Ice Cream, Jessica Jackley, co-founder of Kiva, Cameron Mitchell from Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, Greg Oden, and on and on and on. This year, Thermostat Cultures Live will be a hybrid event. There will be a powerful VIP in-person experience with limited seating in Columbus, Ohio, and a virtual experience for those wanting to participate remotely. I am so excited about this year's lineup of voices joining me, such as New York Times bestselling author of Atomic Habits, James Clear, and founder of The Theory of Enchantment, Chloe Valdery. So please visit thermostatcultureslive.com or jasonvbarger.com to learn more, and I hope you'll help share the word and join these conversations that are the currency for change. Rally your team, reserve your seats, thermostatcultureslive.com. So we're talking about redefining this word accountability because it's a word that I hear in every team and organization, the need, the desire for greater amounts of accountability. And so we're talking about it on today's podcast and redefining that word accountability. We need a better relationship with the word accountability. Unfortunately, it's taken on a negative association in the minds of so many people because of the ways in which teams, companies, parents, and coaches have talked about the word over the years. The focus around accountability has been so far leaning toward the items that we don't get done that its meaning has been hijacked to mean the proverbial slap on the wrist or quote-unquote accountability police, the catching us doing something wrong. That in our minds, so much of us associate accountability with catching somebody doing something wrong. I'm going to quote unquote hold you accountable has taken on a negative connotation that only means holding you responsible for the things you don't do. This misses this perception or this approach or this, thinking about it only in this way misses one very valuable side of accountability. It's blurring the true and compelling element and essence of the word accountability, because accountability simply means the fact or condition of being accountable, taking responsibility. And so accountability, it's not only the things you don't do, but it's also the things you do. Accountability is not a negative term, but in fact, it's a very positive one. The problem has been that we only use the word or reference the word when we are identifying an act or a person who has not lived up to their responsibility. And so it starts to take on this negative connotation because we only use the word accountability when somebody hasn't done what we wanted them to do. The opportunity and mindset shift that's needed within our teams and organizations and our families and our sports teams and our community organizations, the mindset shift needed is to reclaim the true definition and begin to use the word accountability in positive ways as well. When an employee is on time and prepared for every meeting in a week, they have been accountable to their teammates and their duties. When a team member stops and acknowledges the performance or positive attitude of another team member, they are being accountable to the values they said they desire as a team. When a husband or wife, takes out the trash, as a gift of service for their partner, they are being accountable to the partnership they committed to. Every single day, I could go on and on and on with different examples, but every single day we perform many, many tasks and actions that represent positive accountability. We just don't recognize or acknowledge these efforts nearly enough, and we haven't seen them as accountability. Then we, quote unquote, hold each other accountable when we miss the mark on something. So the shift I'm trying to make is that we need to broaden our sense of this word accountability, and we need to practice both sides of this. Because when someone only hears the negative edge of someone, quote unquote, holding them accountable, then they begin to lose sight of all of their other positive efforts that are happening, which they are also being accountable to. So this often leads to a lower level of self-value. It erodes trust with people, and it reinforces this kind of negative association with the word accountability, when in fact, accountability, the true meaning, is actually a very positive thing. So an ownership mindset within a team or a culture or a relationship or group of humans of any kind means that I'm accountable for me, I'm responsible for me, and you are accountable for you, and we are accountable and responsible for us. And we have an opportunity to breathe good oxygen of positive accountability into all we do because we sincerely want to uphold our end of the bargain. We understand that we each play a significant role in the health of the team, the health of the relationship, the health of the culture, because positive accountability is one of the strongest forces on the planet. And if every single one of us are all ambassadors for the culture that we want to create, whether that's the culture of our individual relationship, the culture within our team at work, the culture across the entire organization or our sports team or organization, whatever that may be, we all are accountable and responsible for the good and the not so good that happens within the ecosystem. And so this talking about accountability only in the negative sense takes us away and it causes us to lose sight of the fact of all of the ways in which we are accountable and responsible for all the good mojo, the good things that are in place and are happening. So along the way, on this podcast, you've heard me a number of times, we've been talking about emotional intelligence and the role that plays, us as individual humans, the way that we can recognize and understand emotions in ourselves and what we're seeing and feeling and thinking. What do we know about ourselves? But then also, can we recognize and understand that in other people? And then once we can recognize that in other people, what is the behavioral response? What are the actions we choose to put into practice to help develop that relationship or that culture? And so positive accountability is also about us recognizing, acknowledging, and breathing good oxygen into all the good habits, good practices, good things that we have going within our relationship or within our culture. And then, as you've heard me talk about on past episodes, the ability that when, yes, we do miss the mark or we have something that we need to have a courageous conversation about, we enter it, but not only through we only talk about things when we need to, quote unquote, hold each other accountable for the negative stuff. We actually are holding each other accountable and celebrating the positive stuff along the way. So some questions to ponder for today. How could you and your team reframe this word accountability in the more positive sense? How could you catch each other and acknowledge all the ways you are being accountable and responsible for each other and for the mission? And what opportunities exist to take greater ownership in the mission or greater ownership with each other? So I hope today's episode got you thinking in many ways. If a deeper dive into any of these topics is interesting to you, please reach out to us, info@jasonvbarger.com, and let us know. It will continue to design content to help meet you where you are. If support for your team, your organization, your culture is helpful, I hope you'll reach out through jasonvbarger.com. And lastly, I hope you'll go back and listen to past episodes, So many topics that will add value to your life and your work, and I hope you'll share it with the people around you, rate and review, and all the ways in which we can share these messages. Cheers to you, the path ahead of all of us, and remember that the future of leadership is you, is me, is us. We have an opportunity to get clear on the temperature that we hope to set, and then to be courageous and committed, accountable and responsible to positively breathe oxygen into the mindsets and actions that will sustain us for the path ahead. So remember, step back, remember, be a thermostat, and breathe good oxygen. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.